Greetings and thank you for joining us for the reading of Christ's letters. It's always such a privilege to be together, come together, and come to that unification of the one, that from which all things come, which we are. So I'm going to let us know where we're beginning tonight in the reading from the various collections of Christ's letters, 2000 AD. So if you're reading from the recent publication, it's Christ Returns, Reveal Startling Truth. That's page 129 at the bottom. Oh, what we're looking for is the paragraph that begins, was it really true I walked on water, but my disciples boarded a boat to cross the lake? So that's where we begin tonight, and we end with the resurrection. How cool. What a great reading. So if you're reading from Christ Returns, Speaks His Truth in book form, that's page 146 at the bottom of the page. If you're reading from Christ Letters 3, the second draft, which I attached to my emails, of Chapel in the Sky at AOL.com, in case I didn't say it before. That's 93, page 93, paragraph 3, third from the bottom. Okay, so go to the bottom and count up. If you're reading from Christ Letters, the first draft, there was a draft before this one, where all the letters were still numbered individually instead of as a collective. It's Christ Letter 3, and it's the page 10, the second from the bottom paragraph. And if you're reading from the original manuscripts, which always brings a reminder of the urgency of getting these letters out and sharing them with everyone you know and helping the world individually, collectively to awaken and be nurtured and nourished from these letters into coming into a true destiny that Jesus birthed over 2,000 years ago. I don't know what I was saying. I apologize. Okay, so if you're reading from the ebook, if I didn't give the locations, page 111 and paragraph 2. I was just sharing how exciting it is to go back to the early days when the enthusiasm of the headquarters was very visible and very alive. And now the headquarters seems to be distant from us, not as involved with us, or at least not with me. Well, no, because there are those who write to them. So I hold them in my mind and in my treatment, knowing that all is working toward the good. So let's come into that space. Sorry, I'm so excited. The Christ Letters has been republished and Speaks His Truth, and you can get it from Amazon. The Christ Returns, Speaks His Truth, and it's very exciting to see it available again, affordable. And we look forward to it coming even more affordably, even free to people. Of course, everyone can get the letters for free at Christ's Way. That's like possessive Christ, although Christ is no possession because it's everything that is, so it is everything that is. So it's Christ's Way, no hyphen, .co.za. So you can get the letters for free there. And you can get them in book form on Amazon. So I like the book form. So anyway, we just hold the headquarters in light, hold all beings of light in light. We know this Christ that we know, this Christ that we're learning, this Christ that's revealing itself as us with a new destiny for our individual lives and our collective life, bring forth the kingdom of heaven on earth, the era of love and peace and joy, right here, right now. And we know that this Christ is 100% present on every path, on every individual, and all paths are leading to the same goal of heaven on earth, goodwill to all humankind. To be able to, with our consciousness, awareness, we can penetrate and permeate the Christ energy, the Christ consciousness energy into all of humanity. And as we all realize this together, we bring forth the world. It is done unto us as we believe. That's the law. I believe strongly in peace on earth. And I believe strongly in I let it be so. I let everything be just what it is. Be in that peace of non-judgmental recognition without damning or getting mad at ourselves when we fall short of this. But recognize that I, more and more, are approaching my world without judgment. Of just letting it be and just letting it be and just accepting it, allowing it, not resisting it. I'm thankful for these letters that have come to bring peace on earth. I thank Christ for coming through Jesus over 2,000 years ago to show us a new destiny of our expression, our physical expression. And Christ came back in 2000 AD, 18 years ago, to remind us of who we are and how we create. Each of us is an I am presence, initiating the creative process with every word and feeling and belief. The stronger I believe something, the more energy I'm feeding for that purpose to come into being. And so I ask us in this now moment to just unify with this presence within. Just feel its life. It's invisible. We can't see it, but we know it's there. We know this life is in every cell, vibrating, living, intelligently performing its purpose in whatever location that cell is in, on the skin, under the skin, in the hair or the toenail, or in any organ. That cell is performing its function in accordance with the consciousness given to it. It cannot be form without consciousness. That's the no thingness. The no form is the possibility that consciousness gives it. So let's just be in this one as we hear the message of Christ as he comes back down into the persona of Jesus over 2,000 years ago, and sharing it with us very intimately, very directly, as he says, I come to speak to you directly through his recorder. And so I put myself there. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not there yet. We're starting with the walking on water. So things to come are beautiful. I used to not be able to, when I read him the early years of reading the letters publicly, beginning in 2006, when I would get to this portion, I really had a tough time going through it because I got into the drama. I felt it so personally being there. So I just share that with you. Thank you for being patient as we go into this letter. Was it really true I walked on water when my disciples traversed to a boat across the lake? If you have read the biblical account of this incident, you will realize that the disciples had left me behind. I yearned for an opportunity to withdraw from all human contact, retire to the hills, and once more enter into a profound meditation allowing my consciousness to merge into the universal dimension of God consciousness. Let's just breathe that. Can you feel that? Can you feel that oneness? And then know that Jesus experienced it even way more than we can, for now. As we continue reading these letters, we come more and more and more into that Christ of Jesus. That's why I do this every week, and it's for my benefit. You know, I'm fortunate that you come with me. I'm fortunate with those who are actually on the call physically. But as I get to share it with you, and it goes out from my energy, from the Christ energy through my energy to your energy, it comes back to me from your energy through my energy back into the Christ. So we create this volume of energy because of how separate we are. If you think of this happening right here and right now in Richmond, Virginia, and wherever you are, just know that all the energy between us, because we're consciously connected, all the energy between us is radiating all the consciousness around this path of energy we've created. Okay, my concept, it's a way that I interpret what Jesus teaches. May not be the right way, and I'm interested if you have different, because I'm here to learn and to grow. So, okay, I'm gonna repeat, and I won't interrupt this time. I yearn for an opportunity to withdraw from all human contact, retire to the hills, and once more enter into a profound meditation, allowing my consciousness to merge into the universal dimension of God consciousness. While in the spiritual state, transcending human consciousness, all awareness of physicality disappeared, and ecstatically I was lifted into the universal stream of life, and I also knew that the universal life was all. Life is in the reality of my beingness, and all else are but temporary changing appearances of universal life made visible. I knew, I felt, I was life itself. And as I slipped beyond earthly consciousness into universal life consciousness, the laws governing my physical being were transcendent and no longer applied to the flesh and blood of my human body. Pause and feel. Experience that merging, feeling that life energy that's around us is within us. And as we're consciously aware of its withinness of us, feel the awareness of this consciousness expanding beyond the skin, beyond the clothes. And just feel that life force energy all around us. And just become one with it, bathed in it. Experiencing it, experiencing ourselves. Yeah. That's really what's happening. It is experiencing us. Okay. So in this transcendent state, I longed to move about in this new transcendent state and found myself floating out of my cave. I could see my disciples on the lake, and I knew they were in distress. Effortlessly, I floated down over the hill towards the shore, and as I began to regain contact with my normal human concerns, so he may not have been as visible as he was floating down until he started becoming more like in the physical realm, reconnecting, because he's got to, as I have to do at the beginning of each thing, I have to go through the process of go into my my logical consciousness. And that's why the meditation is so important for me to come back into the oneness. Okay, so now he's floated down, and now he's starting to be able to be seen. Before he could have been invisible in his, in his bigness of energy. There was no form to it whatsoever. But as he came down, he started becoming more physical, because he was coming onto that physical alignment, that physical consciousness, to be one with his disciples. Okay. You must understand that hearing and thinking in the human consciousness state, okay, the one I'm talking about, it's coming down, it's a heavier, it's a more compacted, more confined, more focused, more purposeful. This purpose out here is, it's done. But this purpose down here is the actions to take for it to be done. Spirit and we work together. It gives us, we open to the ideas of what I want to. It's the demand and supply. I make a demand on the universe, and it comes through and creates the demand for it. And the demand creates the form, the condition. So you must understand that hearing and thinking in the human consciousness state, and thinking and hearing on the ascended state into the transcendent realization of universal life. Now, if you're not reading along, this term is all uppercase. It's italicized, and it's underlined, and it's bolded. Christ is saying this is the ultimate truth that we're seeking. So, and thinking and hearing on in the ascension into the transcendent realization of universal life. That's all one. Transcendent realization of universal life. Wow. And this is the journey. This is the goal, I believe. This is the goal for this destiny that Jesus gave us 2,000 years ago, a destiny of heaven on earth, rather than the hell on earth that I don't take responsibility in creating that, because I only create good and respect and justice and love. So as Christ teaches me, or as I have received the teachings of Christ. Okay. I'm sorry. I've just got to share it with you, because I received this in the mail yesterday. Okay. Once you see the picture, it's a triumphant Jesus with the cross. Instead of the traditional Jesus on the cross, he's showing no, the Christ of me, the Father of me, still lives. Jesus died on the cross. Jesus was killed for threatening the Jewish faith. But I, the truth of me, the truth of you, the truth that I'm revealing to you, is alive and well and everywhere present. So it says Christ returns, reveals, speaks his truth. I still get the two mixed up. And this was the original book after the first manuscripts came together. And this book contains everything in it. The 9 letters, the 16 articles, 2 messages that Christ transcribed following the publication of the first book, and some study guides. So it's really a fantastic book, and I think it's $26 on Amazon.com. So I am just so elated, because I've been wanting to see it. It's been out of publication for a while, or available at like $138, which it is definitely worth that. But buying it for that price is not the way Christ would want it. Christ wants this to be easy and effortless and available to all. So, okay, again, I'll try to read without interrupting. I'm just really excited about the book. I'm excited about bringing forth the kingdom of earth in the year, by the end of this year. I'm charged with that. I'm feeling it happening. I'm more and more committed to it. I speak to it more and more. So here Christ is putting right here, right now, into our mindset that we can at least imagine that this possibility of oneness and ascension that's available to us just through reading the letters and meditating on the letters, feeling them, take them in, embody them, feel them. So, and I knew this was going to be a quick read tonight, because when we actually did it, we covered very little, because we had a lot of discussion, probably a lot like this, come to think of it. So, okay, I'm going to go back, because I've taken us back into the physical, but I want us to be in that meditative state of Jesus raising his consciousness awareness in the cave. They just let go of everything and just allowed himself to become one with the Father. And this is becoming one with the Father. He became the Father. That's a good way to say it. He wasn't with the Father. He says it so clearly. He says, okay, I knew, I felt, I was life itself. So instead of having life, he's being the very life that's creating the body. So he goes from the physical into this very high spiritual consciousness awareness of, that going out to the place where everything begins, to that no-thingness. Or I can't go into the no-thingness, but he goes into that realization that all there is life. And so he's in this presence of, he still recognizes himself as a being, but he's given that up. He's just realizing himself as a father of the being. And yet there's that part of him that's also conscious in the physical and just thought, what would it be like to move with this body? Can I do that? Can I move my consciousness awareness without my body? Can I even, well, I can imagine it, so let me try it. So he kind of, through whatever adjustment he made, I can just feel the energy between my hands. Whatever he made, he just felt himself floating down, probably even aware in consciousness, not hearing it, but in consciousness awareness, he was aware of the distress of his disciples. So he kind of just floats down to the water to, I guess just observe or see if he can assist or whatever. But as he's coming down, he's starting to hear them now, and he's starting to come back into his physical senses. But he's still staying in that transcendent state, of universal life. I know the life of me is the life of you. I know it's the life of the experiences going on. And, the Bible goes further with Peter coming out to him. Christ doesn't go into that. Christ just tells Christ's experience through Jesus of what this really was, instead of you have to accept it on faith. This is, to me, we can still believe it's phony if we want. With all the reading, I just get more understanding. So she must understand that hearing and thinking in the human consciousness state and the ascension into the transcendent realization of universal life, when the personal consciousness is now withdrawn from the bodily condition and wholly merged in universal Father consciousness. In this belong two entirely different dimensions of being. And we're always in these dimensions, always, always, always. We're always a physical, always the consciousness of the physical, that gives purpose to this physical. And we can tell it what that purpose is, or we can listen to it to say, your purpose is to have peace. Your purpose is to create harmony and justice and love for all people and respect all people. For all people are your consciousness mirrored back in a different vibration, different being. So the human consciousness can receive inspiration from the universal Father consciousness, but the inspiration received mingles with the human condition and is frequently misinterpreted according to the store of knowledge already controlling the brain. Okay, so we talk about mindset a lot in this, and it's done unto us as we believe. So we can perceive something, we can see something, taste, hear something, but it's still going to be done with our current filters, our current way of perceiving it. The senses are there. They're just giving the information. We decide how we interpret it. And as we allow the transcendent state, the Christ state, my cat is watching me, if we listen and perceive from the Christ state of consciousness, we have a whole different way of dealing with the situation. And Jesus showed us that. That's the only reason Jesus came, is so that Christ could say, this is what it looks like to be a human being in a God conscious state. Okay, so the human consciousness can receive inspiration from the universal Father consciousness, but the inspiration received mingles with the human condition and is frequently misinterpreted according to the store of knowledge already controlling the brain. And therefore, the mental processes themselves. Unfortunately, the inspiration you receive is contaminated and distorted. Powerful words. So the inspiration you receive, we're always receiving inspiration that's contaminated and distorted by your present strongly maintained beliefs. Whereas the transcendent perceptual and realization state rises out of, emerges from the physical condition. The brain is no longer in control. It no longer has influence on the transcendent perception state, which is truth itself. And oh, that we could live from this, but we're going toward that. It is no longer controlled or affected by human belief. It is in a state of, quote, what really is back of visible manifestation and existence. Instead of in the human dimension of what it believes existence to be, it is in the transcendent state of consciousness that miracles are but normal working of universal law. And if you haven't heard of A Course in Miracles, that's the whole thing of A Course in Miracles. The miracles are always happening. It's when we believe they're not that they're not. Before I continue with this account of my life on earth, I want to stress again that everything in the universe is a particular and individualized state of consciousness made visible. So that's all form is. It's the consciousness made visible. No consciousness, no form. And no consciousness is that before the beginning. Okay? It begins with consciousness. I have had to descend from my present state of consciousness, my Christ universal state of consciousness. I've had to descend from my present state of consciousness of universal love in order to experience again my life on earth, which remains indelibly imprinted within the consciousness energy of the world itself, dating back to the time of its moment of creation, back 2018 years ago. You must understand that when I left my body in Palestine, I left everything pertaining to that life behind me. This is the resurrection. Okay. And next week we will read the rest of the story of those last 3 days and the resurrection. And how, we hear how Jesus dealt with that. We experience it as a physical being. And Christ comes along and says, no, that's not the way it was at all. I was in such a state of love and oneness with the Father that nothing disturbed me, nothing upset me. I felt nothing. I know my human body experienced it, but the consciousness of body was totally raised from that consciousness awareness, okay? So Christ says, when I left my body in Palestine, I left everything pertaining to that life behind me. I had fulfilled my mission. Therefore, when I died on the cross, I, Jesus, not Christ now. It's very important to make that distinction because we've so worshiped Jesus that we feel that Jesus died on the cross and became God. But Jesus was God before he came into existence. Jesus was God through his existence on the earth plane. And then Jesus rose back into God, denying himself, releasing himself from his physical form, but still had the consciousness that was in that form. He still had the consciousness of Jesus. That's why he could return and speak to the disciples in this transcendent state. So I had fulfilled my mission. Therefore, when I died on the cross, I was set free. I was lifted into glorious light, to partake of that light, to be the light, and rejoice in the light. which is universal love, universal life, universal beauty, universal harmony, universal joy, and rapture. The highest love we can imagine, the highest place of non-judgment and no belief in sin. So he continues, moving between different levels of consciousness is no easy or pleasant assignment. It is only because my mission on earth was not completed when I died on Palestine. Okay, and see, this is why I'm so passionate. This is what he wanted to transcend, to show us the Father of me has done all the deeds and the works. Everything you've seen is not me, the body of me. It's not the Jesus of me. I'm just the doer. I'm just the physical opportunity for it to manifest through. And that's within me is within you. And this scared other Jewish leaders. It was scared them because this is a different God than they teach. The God they teach is one that's, I'm going to get you when you die. You know, you're really messed up on this plan and I'm really mad at you. But the God that Jesus brought us was a God of love, forgiveness, acceptance, respect, true justice, authenticity, you know, all these things. So we've seen him in a certain way. Now Christ is saying, no, here's a new way to see me. And not to see me, Jesus, but through seeing me in Jesus, now you see me in you. And I'm giving you the available education so you can ascend from the plane of hell into the plane of ascension. So it's only because my mission on earth was not completed when I died. And that's where it stopped. You know, the organized religion kept it stopped. His intention was to bring forth the kingdom of heaven. That's it. And organized religion has stopped that. Christ is all about freedom. Christ is not about religion. Christ is about experience, expression of beingness, and allowing spirit to play with itself and enjoy being loving of one another. What a joy that is. What a joy this is. Again, but I've got these notes in the pages. See, that's why it's a lot of energy has gone into this reading when I meditate on it, my private meditations over the last, however many years. So it is only pleasant. He's only come down in consciousness. He's made this commitment to come to a lower state, although in the time of infinity, how much time is this? Although it's all now. So it is only because my mission on earth was not completed when I died in Palestine that I now return to help you prepare to enter a new age, a new phase of individualized existence on earth. And that's why we're together. We're together to experience this in form and in recognition and realization. You may gain some understanding of what I mean by the discomfort of this enterprise when you remember the times you have recalled some deep sadness in your life, and you find yourself reacting with almost the same degree of tension and emotional stress as you did when the sadness actually took place. Reflecting on past suffering and sorrow will make you want to cry. You'll feel a return of the original depression and anguish as you relive that time in your imagination. You may want to withdraw from people because your consciousness has now descended from your former state of happy, peaceful equilibrium to experience yet again the lowered consciousness vibrations and consciousness forms you created at the time of your suffering. Changing moods indicates a change in your consciousness energies. A lift in your consciousness vibrations gives you a physical, emotional, and mental lift, making you feel happy. A drop in your consciousness energies will depress the functioning of your entire system, and you will feel the onset of depression. Or at the very least, a drop from the former buoyancy you were enjoying. I'm describing for you a fact of existence. It's important we see that we exist in these two planes of existence. And every now moment we have the choice of which do we choose. The limiting consciousness of humanity the way it's always been, or the releasing energy of consciousness, this is the way it can be. Okay? We have that choice every now moment. Your entire universe manifests the differing frequencies of vibrations of consciousness energy particles. As these frequencies move up or down from one level to another, so do the physical and visible structures manifest differing levels of energy. There's a change of mental patterns and emotional appearances. So this is what we experience with Jesus coming down to the water again. Okay, I want to keep bringing us back to that. I want to make it real for us because it is real. So that's what Christ is telling us. And we can elevate our consciousness. And we're the only ones that are keeping it from elevated because in truth, it's already elevated. It already is all that is. It is already the Christ. And we experience as we believe it to be. To descend from my state of consciousness to re-enter the conditions of my time on earth is prompted only by my love for mankind. And I think we feel that, I know I feel this all the way through this humbleness for me, this gratitude for me that, Christ couldn't care less about what humanity does with humanity. Christ isn't about attachment that we have to have heaven on earth. We have choice. We have free will. And, the appearance, because Christ says in the introduction that mankind is on the threshold of a world crisis of enormous proportions. It is vital for survival that either Christ should reach all who will listen. And so this is why I'm spending so much time on this today, because this is the meat of all the letters right here. The rest of the letters tell us the how to do this, how to ascend, how the whole creative process works, what the truth of God really is instead of the one that we've been told. So I'm just really into selling this book if you haven't gotten it. And if you don't follow the letters, they're just so important in the life of you. If you want to be free and happy and joyful and loving and feeling justice and stop judging fairness and unfairness and all that, if you just want to be in the world the way it is, in the acceptance of it, we can change it. In the resistance of it, we can't. We can only resist it. So it's in the acceptance that it comes. So, okay. Okay. Right now he's preparing us for his last days on earth. We will continue next week, but we're going to read this part today anyway. So he's descended to show us his love for us. So he's recalling his experiences so we can actually know the truth of it. Okay. For 2,000 years, Christians have been reliving the trauma of my crucifixion. Some people have even experienced the stigma, which is nothing more than a hysterical and morbidly emotional response to what they believed I endured. It's done unto us as we believe. We can achieve anything when we put our mind to it. How much faith do we put into it? So if I feel the suffering Jesus so much that I feel the pain and experience the bleeding and all that, there's no reason. If I can float on water, there's no reason I can't have, holes in my hand or bleeding or whatever. So Jesus Christ isn't saying this critically. He's just saying, as a matter of fact, that when we get into an hysterical and morbidly emotional response to our horror, we're going to attract that. It's the law. And this is why Christ has said it's so important you understand this. So we see what we're creating. People have worked themselves up into an emotional pitch akin to a frenzy while imagining the anguish of my suffering. Excuse me. Imagining the anguish of my suffering before my death. Their emotional gratitude Their emotional gratitude for what I endured sends them into a state of physical distress. This letter is being written on your Good Friday, and I have come specifically to talk to you about my crucifixion and to tell you that you must abandon all the drama associated with the remembrance of this day. I died, and that was for me a wondrous release. It is time that people wake up from their long, long dream and come to understand existence as it really is, and the truth concerning my crucifixion, which has been hidden all this time. On Good Fridays, year after year down the centuries, you have created a contaminated, traumatic consciousness state of being throughout the world as far removed from the spiritual dimension of universal creative consciousness as hell is removed from heaven. Now that I have chosen to relive my life on earth in the persona of Jesus, through the mind of the one who is receiving my words, in order to help the world move on to a new phase of spiritual mental development, I ask those who can receive my words to give up this practice of remembering my death and exercising physical self-denial during your Lenten to commemorate my 40 days in the desert. He doesn't want us to suffer those 40 days because he says, as you must realize from this narrative, my time in the desert was one of great joy and blessedness of spirit. That's where Jesus received all his enlightenment. So that's where we're stopping with this recording, and we'll pick up next week at the Jesus reliving, or Christ reliving for us, retelling the story of his last days and everything but the crucifixion. So I love you. Thank you for being here. Just be at peace, read the letters, listen to recordings. Be part of Peace on Earth by December 31st, 2018. Bye-bye for now, beloved. See you next week.